Welcome to the Hope Unlocked podcast. I'm your host, Kristin Kurtz, and I'm also the founder of New Wings Coaching. I help and empower wild-hearted and adventurous women of faith feeling caged and stuck unlock their true purpose and potential, break free from limitations, and thrive with confidence, courage, and hope. If you're curious to learn more about coaching with me, head to newwingscoaching.net and be sure to explore the show notes for ways to connect with me further. Get ready to dive in as we uncover empowering keys and insights in this episode. So tune in and let's unlock hope together. Welcome to the Hope Unlocked podcast. I'm Kristin Kurtz, your host. I pray this episode is like a holy IV of hope for your soul. Please help me welcome Anna McLaughlin to the show today. I'm so excited to have her here. We are a recent connection, and I really believe that we are like divinely aligned because I'm just like, wow, I see you, you see me. It's so fun. So I cannot wait for her to share more about herself. So before we get into your story, would you just share maybe a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Absolutely. Oh, Kristin, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. So, Anna McLaughlin, I am a homeschooling mom of four, married for almost 16 years. And I know. And I like to say I'm a recovering attorney. I was a lawyer through and through, practiced for 5 years, and have been on a journey over the past 12 years, learning how to be instead of do. And so
Mm,
I do my being at home with my kiddos, homeschooling them. I do it
mhm.
mostly in my quiet time with the Lord every morning while it's still dark. And I have a coaching practice as well and a podcast called Overwhelmed to Overcomer. So those are the
Yeah,
spaces in which I find myself these days.
so beautiful. So for those of you who know me well, you know that I'm all about like it's about the be more than the do. So I love there's so much alignment here.
I
Tell
know.
us so you were an attorney.
hmm
I would love to hear, back in school, I remember it was like, hey, there's all these options for you to go to school for, lawyer, doctor, teacher. Those were kind of like the main things that you saw.
Yeah.
What what led you to become an attorney? Like, is this something in your blood? Is it like people in your family? Like what was it for you?
Yeah, so a lot of people became lawyers because their fathers and their grandfathers and so on were lawyers. It wasn't that way for me so much. It was there was a faith piece, but then there was also, and this was a point of a little bit of crisis for me when I decided to leave law, as I had felt called into it by the Lord. And
Mhm.
funnily enough, my brother was a doctor, so my dad used to joke. He had three children, very spread out in age. So he was like, I've got a doctor, I've got a lawyer. If I can get my youngest to be a minister, I've got all the bases covered.
Oh, wow. I love it.
Really sweet. Um,
Oh.
but for me, I had a plan to go to seminary, and honestly, it was a
Mm.
plan to get what they call your MRS degree of just, I'm going to meet a Christian man and get married. And that was the plan.
Yeah.
And I had a mentor in my life who was like, you're bright, Anna, and you
Oh.
are, you're focusing on kind of just because I had a lot of wounds from growing up with my father was paralyzed when I was a in middle school
Oh my God.
and so there was a lot of kind of trauma,
Yeah.
struggle. I was a bit chaotic, although I
Mhm.
was a believer from the time of my middle school years. I wasn't very grounded, and I thought getting married would solve the problems. And
Yeah.
the Lord was like, we got to get that cleaned up. So
Oh, wow. Wow.
yeah,
Well, I love, like, I just want to like make sure that we capture this too, that you had somebody like stop on your journey and be like, Anna, you are more than this.
yeah. hmm
Like, what did that do for you? Like having somebody say, did you ever think that that was possible? Like at that moment? Or were you like, wait a moment. Like, what did that look like for you when somebody said that?
I feel like it's a position, it's a place that oddly enough, 30 years later, I'm still working on. And I think this is common for us as believers is we, eh, we have to reckon with our fallen nature and our sin, and
Mhm.
we come before the holiness of the Father and we feel our limitedness. We started as dust. And
Mhm.
then there's this other piece that's like, and yet we are grafted in. We are, in his family
Mhm.
as daughters and sons of the the Lord of everything. And
Mhm.
there's a vulnerability to owning the excellence that he has placed in us.
Yeah.
Um, and so when she said that, it was terrifying because I was I knew that I was bright, but I downplayed it out of a sense of insecurity. And
Mhm.
so to kind of call my shot and say, oh, I'm going to be a lawyer, it,
Mm.
it took a lot of it took a lot of courage for me
Yeah.
because I didn't feel comfortable stepping out and saying, yeah, I can do this. And so yeah, it was a call to more that
Mhm.
I feel like it's just one of the things that we have to keep facing in life before the Father is like, okay, and then there's another level of stretching, there's another level of trusting, and there's that
Yeah.
moment where we step out where it feels like I'm going to fall off this cliff, right?
Right. Right. Like Indiana Jones, right?
Yes, yes, that's the exact one. And there's an Indiana Jones moment where there's like the bridge, and then there's a
Mhm.
beautiful picture too in I think it's the Silver Chair in the Chronicles of Narnia, where Jill Pole is like newly in the world of Narnia, and she's got to travel to this world, and she gets up to the edge of the cliff, and Aslan, who is the god figure, literally
Mhm.
breathes her down the mountain. So it looks like she's going to
Mhm.
fall. And instead, she just
Mhm.
rides on his breath. It carries her all the way. And
Um,
that's what,
yes.
I think that's how our life is meant to be lived. But there's that moment where we're like, is he going to catch me this time?
Absolutely. Like I often think of like a backpack that you think there's a parachute in it
Yes.
when you jump out of the plane, but you're not really sure if it's going to
Hmm.
come out.
Hmm.
But it does. It always does. So tell us like a little bit of, so you went to college,
Hmm.
obviously to become an attorney. And what was that journey like in, stepping into that realm of, your calling at that time of your life, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was funny because when I went to college, I was planning on going to seminary, and then it was kind of right on time. Like I think it was my junior year, right before I was going to have to be taking the entrance exam and all of that, because you have to
Hmm.
take a standardized test. And and then it's like this hard left turn of I'm gonna be a lawyer.
Mm.
And at the time, I hated speaking in front of people. I didn't like,
Did you really?
antagonism, yes. And so I didn't want to do courtroom, but I literally at the time, which just shows how much I knew about what I was about to do, I didn't even
Mhm.
know that there were what are called transactional lawyers, where you get to work with people kind of behind the scenes and you never have to go to court. And so it was this
Oh.
funny process of unfolding where I'm like, oh, I could do that. And I think I'd be good at that. And that would be so fun. And so it was a really sweet adventure before the Lord.
Oh,
Um, and just really the first time in my life, because I'm a baby sister by 9 years. And so I was always little Anna.
little
Um,
Anna.
I was.
Everybody called you little Anna?
Well, what's funny is I don't know that they even did, but in my own mind, that's who I was. I was just the
Wow.
little baby, and my big brother just carved every path so beautifully. Went on to law
Oh,
school, married his or not law, medical school. Sorry, wrong
yeah,
story.
yeah.
Went on to medical school, married his medical school sweetheart, had the two
Mhm.
kids. It just all looked so perfect. And then
Okay.
I was this kind of messy, dramatic, emotional young woman, and I'm going to be a lawyer. And so,
Wow. I love
so
it.
it was sweet. It was sweet to walk into that and sweet to um, own my competency or to trust the Lord that I had competency when that wasn't something that I'm more of um, I'm a little bit more kind of emotional, and I love.
Mhm.
At the time, I was dramatic, but it's
Mhm.
it's been honed into more of just a winsomeness, and so
Oh,
people were like, "I wouldn't picture you as a lawyer," and in a lot of ways, it wasn't the perfect
mm,
fit. But I
yeah.
think that was a part of me that the Lord really wanted me to hone and refine.
So beautiful. So how did you operate in that space then? Did you do a lot of more like behind the scenes? You said like a
Yeah.
transactional lawyer. Is that
Yes.
more of what you did?
Yes. So the type of work I did was it's called mergers and acquisitions, where basically anytime a business was buying or selling all or a piece of itself,
Hmm.
that was the work that I did.
Wow.
And I was part of a large law firm, so just very, you spend a lot of years getting trained. And so I spent 5 years in that space. And I think we were talking before we hit record about just
Mm-hmm.
being kind of on yeah, being this bridge builder and how we can
Yes.
be connectors and
Hmm.
so for me I always felt like I was straddling two spaces of there's the deal to get done and the work to be done and it's all very strategic and that kind of um nuts and bolts black and white side of the
Hmm.
brain and
Like in a
then
box, kind of.
exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. And yet there's this other piece of my spirit that was really floundering, which is the part of me that sees that the CEO that we're working with, his mother just died. And gosh, I want to get him flowers and I don't want to
Oh.
schedule a conference call with him this week because he needs space. And that part of me, I kind of snuck it in. I found ways to operate in that way, but there was so much doing, as we were talking about
Mm.
earlier, that
Yeah.
the being
Yeah.
was really
Mm.
suffering. So
Yeah.
that was a struggle, and ultimately one that at the time I couldn't really reconcile. So that led to the decision when our second child was born to walk away.
Wow. Wow. So how many years ago was that then?
It's almost 13 years ago that we left.
13 years. Okay. What did that look like for you? Like, was there just kind of the still small voice, like it's time to go, or were you just so unsettled you just felt like you needed to bust out of there?
There were
Or all
both,
of it?
all of it, all of it. It was actually the biggest work before the Lord was learning to stay
Mm.
in the deficit, like stay in the not
Yeah.
enough and let that be
Yes.
okay.
That's
Um,
a word right there.
right, right. And so within 6 months of starting at the practice, I
Mhm.
was like, I don't think this is for me. Like, it was
Mhm.
just so cerebral. So, the environment is relatively intense. It was a
Mhm.
large law firm, and so the clients were paying a lot of money. So
Mhm.
you needed to either be always available or at least look always available. And so
Mhm.
there was a lot of performance, working on holidays and working
Oh
on
my gosh.
weekends. And then I met my husband, who was this happy C student Cliff Notes reading guy. Who
Yeah.
was who was uh who was going on boat rides with his buddies on the weekends while I was at the office.
Oh my God.
And so really the beautiful thing was in falling in love with him,
Mhm.
there opened up this space of learning to enjoy life in a way that, this little performance-driven girl that I was hadn't really
Mhm.
understood how to do before the Lord. Um, and so that was really precious. And so
Mhm.
then I'm 6 months in, I'm like, I got this degree, I paid for this degree, I took out some loans for this
Right?
degree, and I don't want to be here. And
Yeah.
then came this season that, like I said, lasted another 5 years
Mhm.
of if if it's not time to leave yet, which,
Mhm.
financially, logistically, it wasn't
Mhm.
yet,
Mhm.
then then surely I must be able to, it's that whole Paul saying, I've learned to be content no matter
Yes.
what, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
then if I'm called to be here, then the fruits of the Spirit are love,
Mhm.
joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, goodness, self-control. Like those are here
Mhm.
because
Yes.
he's got me here and I'm here.
Yes. Because wherever you are, there he is.
Right, exactly. And so that was really the work is how can I stay here well? How can I serve well? How can I
Mhm.
um, be a solid, faithful woman of integrity in this space
Mhm.
and also want to leave at the same time. And so navigating that was because I would get, I wasn't sleeping.
Uh-huh.
We had our daughter 3 years in. to me
Okay.
practicing law. And so I started working part-time, and
Mhm.
part-time as a lawyer meant I left at like 4:30 in the afternoon,
Like
3:30.
normal full
Yeah,
time.
right, exactly. And I would get home, I would spend a few hours with her. She would go to bed at 6:30. I'd turn on my laptop. I'd work until like 11:30, and she would wake up and
Oh my
I,
gosh.
and she would cluster feed because I'd been gone all day. So she would cluster
Yeah.
feed and I would kind of doze until 6 in the morning. And then I'd give her to my husband, and I'd take an hour or two nap, and then I'd go off to work.
Oh my gosh. Like how were you like operating? Were you just doing the thing or were you feeling it? Was your body feeling it?
My body was feeling it, and my emotions were feeling it too. And I think ultimately that's why the Lord had me there,
Mhm.
is I needed to learn how to let it be okay to be
Mm.
in the discontent.
Yeah.
I was the baby of the family. We actually, my dad adopted a daughter when I went off to college, but for all intents and purposes, I was the baby. So I was used to kind of being taken care of, and
Yeah.
what does little Anna need? And for me to be, my husband would say, does it help to know that you're helping the family? I was like, no.
You're like, try a different one.
I know that one's not helpful, but for him, that would be worth it. Him
Mhm.
knowing, because he was in a job that was real hard on his body physically,
Yeah.
but for him to know he was helping the family
Mm.
was enough to keep him going. And I was not born with that gene. The Lord did not give me that gene to be like, I'm so grateful that I'm of service right now. It's worth the
Right.
struggle.
Right. So what is your gene?
So mine is all about meaning and purpose. I want to
Mhm.
know that I'm doing something of value. And
Mm.
so I think one of the ways that I got through that season was
Mm.
just looking for the opportunities to minister to those around me.
Oh, I love
And
that.
it was sweet. I mean, I had an office with a door, and people would
Mhm.
just come in and close the door and sit down and cry
Oh.
and process. And whether it was just because the environment in a law firm is often, if you've stayed up till 2 o'clock, someone else has stayed up till 4. So
So just cutthroat.
yeah, and I will say our office really had a good work environment, but it's hard to come by that sympathy when you're like, yeah, that's the
Mm.
job. You're going to be up till 2 sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, but I just endeavored to really love on, the people that worked with me, and the people that I mean, even just the secretaries, or if there was somebody
Mm.
looking for a lunch on the street, I'd take them to lunch, and just these different opportunities to be present and endeavor to be
Yeah.
a blessing. Like, I think of all the seasons in my life, um, during that time more than any other, I was just hunting for opportunities to bring
Mm.
light to someone else, because that almost for me justified being there all day.
Wow. It's interesting because, a lot of times people go on like a mission trip
Yeah,
overseas,
yeah,
and sometimes we're actually called on mission in your workplace,
yes.
right? Like, because our stories, like, as you keep talking, I'm like, wow, are very similar. And he just kept showing me when I was in corporate, like, just serve fruit, serve fruit, serve fruit, Holy
Oh,
Spirit, the fruits of Spirit, like, bring the
yes,
fruit, serve the fruit. Um, And I think we don't really attribute like some of these mission trips to literally being in your backyard.
yes.
Would you say?
Oh, absolutely. I think in our minds, it doesn't feel like we're giving enough.
Hmm.
But those small morsels of bread every day, they shift the state for the people around us.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes. Tell me, like, would you mind sharing? I feel like maybe somebody's listening in today that is in a position that they're like, right? Because that's how I felt too. It was like,
Yeah.
I need to get out of here. But I knew that he had me there for a purpose, right?
Yes.
And so if somebody's listening in today, would you be open to maybe sharing maybe a deeper testimonial of maybe one of those moments with somebody that you worked with, or you just saw the fruit of staying, being
Yeah.
planted
Hmm.
with a person and their experience in you being planted there?
Yeah. So there was, and this is just such a tiny little moment, but
Hmm.
but it was such a gift. There was someone who um, they were trying to get across town. I can't, they were down on their luck and they were trying
Mhm.
to travel to get back to family where they could have some support. And
Mhm.
they didn't have the funds for a ticket. And
Oh.
so, I can't remember all of the ins and outs because gosh, it's been probably 15 years now, but
Yeah.
we ended up walking to the bus station, but then the ticket they needed was going to be at a different station. So then we're walking somewhere else.
Oh.
And we ended up, I spent probably an hour and a half on lunch break that day, just walking
Oh.
around and talking to this person and
Mhm.
hearing their story. And, you come in from that moment and you've done the work for the day. And
Mhm.
I think that's what I would encourage anybody who's kind of feeling that sense of, oh, why am I
Mhm.
here? You
Mhm.
know, I think part of what can make that season so painful is we can feel like we're underutilized or we're not being
Mhm.
utilized in the right space.
Mhm.
And what yeah, it's like put me, whether it's like I feel like the Lord has me to write a book, or I feel like the Lord
Mhm.
is calling me into missions, or I feel like I'm supposed to be in a different career than I am.
Mhm.
And we can start to kind of have this story that we must be doing something wrong, or he would have put us there already.
So
And
true.
and so I just want to say, so often we see someone when so much of the story's already been written, right?
Mhm.
It's like
Yeah.
what we don't see is the 20, 30, 40, 50 years
Mhm.
that moment is built on.
Yeah.
Um, Not only in that person's life, but all the prayers of the generations or just
Mhm.
the waters that they were steeped in, that
Yeah.
just that they were able to get to the point that they had gotten to because of the faithfulness, maybe not only of their own walk, but
Mhm.
potentially like did parents pray for them or grandparents praying for them?
Mhm. Mhm.
And if that's not your story, as it's not mine, I didn't
Mhm.
have parents and grandparents praying for me that I
Mhm.
know of or that was
Mhm.
indicated.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm the grandparent to someone else.
So good.
Maybe you're the grandparent to someone else. And so, one of the things that I think we need to remember is it's really like he knows how to move us at the time
Mhm.
that we are to move. And so often there's this richness that comes from staying because we gain
Yeah.
a strength, a
Mhm.
perspective, a humility that we
Mhm.
wouldn't have any other way. So,
Yeah.
what if it's possible? You're not doing anything wrong at all. You're right where he has you.
Ever hear something on this show that stirs something deep, like a nudge from God that there's more? That's stirring. It's not random. I'm Kristin Kurtz, host of Hope Unlocked and the founder of New Wings Coaching, and I'm inviting you into a 45-minute unlocking session, a sacred space to press in, hear what heaven is saying, and activate your next bold step. If you're a trailblazer or kingdom voice ready to break free from doubt and live fully alive, this is for you. Book now at newwingscoaching.net/hope unlocked for special listener pricing. You were born to live uncaged and unapologetically bold. Now back to the show. So beautiful. So as we're talking about this today, what would you say is like one of the biggest like strengths that you came out of, just even whether it's being an attorney or staying? Maybe there's a few things that you took away from there because everything that we walk through is part of our journey, and I believe that we pick up keys in any scenario we're in, right?
Mhm.
What would you say for you that was?
So, one of the most important things that I gained was a, a sense of steadfastness, just
Mm,
understanding that um, it's not all butterflies and roses, and that doesn't mean that we're outside of the Lord's will. Like
mm,
that
mm,
we need to be willing to stay and to serve where we are
mhm.
all the way through until it's done.
Yeah.
And then the other piece is like it felt like forever at the time, but it really changed my perspective on time because if anyone had told me 6 months in when I first realized, oh, this is not what I want,
Mhm.
if anyone had told me it's gonna be 5 more years before this is over, I'd be like, Get out of here, Satan, right? Like, that's
Right.
not,
You're like,
no
get
way.
behind me.
I'm out. This cannot be God because
Right.
I can't make it. And yet, you
Hmm.
know, n now that's almost 13 years in the rearview mirror.
Yes.
And it
Yes.
seemed so big at the time.
Mhm.
So, and really, we look ahead and whatever we go through, Paul talks about the light and momentary troubles. Like,
Mhm.
while, if I remember correctly, while he's in prison, he talks
Right.
about the light and momentary troubles of this life.
Yes.
So, just remembering whatever we may go through, whether it's
Mhm.
the relatively everyday frustration of being in a career that doesn't quite suit, or whether it's deeper pain, deeper loss, that
Mhm.
it's a breath compared to forever.
Yes. That's so good. Thank you for sharing. I would love to hear just the moment, like, how did you leave? Like, what did that look like for you?
Yeah. So my husband and I had a funny moment that's caused years of laughter ever since.
Yeah.
So we had our first child, our daughter, and we started
Mhm.
talking about another baby. And my
Mhm.
husband had this habit, which was very sweet, but didn't really necessarily meet the need in the way I think he hoped it would, which was
Yeah.
if I was up working, instead of going to sleep, he would kind of doze on top of the covers with the lights on as a way of being like, I'm still with you.
Oh, that's
It
he
is.
was trying.
He was trying. He was trying.
Yeah.
So I'm in the other room working. He's doing his dozing in
Mhm.
solidarity, and I'm
So
getting,
cute.
it's so cute. He was just precious.
Oh,
And I'm getting more and more frustrated by the work still left to be done, my exhaustion, the schedule, how hard it's
yeah.
all been. And I kind of storm in the bedroom and I
Mhm.
kick the side of the bed to wake him
Oh,
up. And
oops.
I know,
You're like
right? Yeah.
you got the lights on, but you're actually getting up now.
I know. Now you're up. Now you're up. And he kind of like jolts to his waking moment, and I'm like, listen, if you want another baby, we've got 9 months from conception to get me out of this job because I'm not doing another maternity leave. And he was
Oh,
like, okay,
oh, wow. And this is
message
like
received.
middle of the night kind of thing
Middle of
for
the
him,
night,
basically.
probably 11 o'clock or so, because I'd usually kind of, just reach my breaking point at midnight.
Yeah.
Um, and I should just note in all of this, and I think this is another thing that someone may need to hear. Part of why I worked so late at night was because I had kind of an ADHD type of brain. I didn't
Mhm.
have it well managed. I didn't
Mm.
understand how to pin down my efforts, and so I was wildly inefficient in my work. And
Oh.
and and I'll just note for anybody that needs to hear it, like
Mhm.
you don't have, because part of my wrestle was part of why this is so hard is because of my own making, because I'm
Mm.
making it harder because I'm not, just sitting down and plowing through and getting it done. I'm
Mhm.
procrastinating. I'm stressed about doing it. Like I'm worried I'm not going to get, because, it's kind of like Tom Hanks said one time, being a lawyer is like having to do homework all the time. It was like the one career he didn't want to do,
Oh
he
my
said in an
gosh.
interview. I'm like, this is right. Imagine doing homework for the rest of your life.
Oh my goodness. No, thank you. Just first
Uh-huh.
thing, no, thank you.
Yes, exactly. Same. But it was so important for me to recognize before the Lord. I
Mm.
come with all my gifts and also all my
Yeah.
challenges, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
we don't have to tidy it all up before we get to move to the new season, but we do have to,
Yeah.
lean into Him and trust Him and endeavor to serve as best we can. Um,
Mhm.
and so I did want to like step off the track for a minute to say that for
Yes,
anybody
thank
that needs
you. I
that.
appreciate that so much.
Yeah. But so my
So
husband
you
and I
kicked the
just
bed.
kick the bed. Yep, give the ultimatum.
Yep.
And really financially nothing had really changed from before that decision, but there just came, so what started as a middle of the night kind of I'm not doing this again became
Hmm.
an earnest conversation of there's never going to be a perfect time to go, but
Yeah.
you know, I can always go back if we can't make it
Hmm.
work, but
Hmm.
what if we could pull this thing together and I could be home? And honestly, Kristen, I was earning three-quarters of our income at the time. Like this was not
Right.
mathematically like a very,
Right. Not, not,
it
it
wasn't a
doesn't, it,
logical
I like
decision.
to say it doesn't make sense on paper for those
Exactly.
accountants.
Yes, does not make sense on paper.
Hmm.
Um, and so we made the decision, and then we got pregnant with our second, and I worked through the pregnancy, and then I
Yeah.
gave my notice. And this was a big ask of mine, for my husband, because maternity
Mhm.
leave was a pretty sweet gig. You got 12 weeks of
Yeah.
paid leave, and it was lawyer paid leave, so it was a good chunk of change. But
Mhm.
I knew I wanted to leave well, and so I gave my notice before maternity leave,
Wow.
and left 3 weeks before my son was born.
You did.
Yeah.
Wow. See, this is why I love you. Part of just that
Oh,
integrous heart that you
yeah.
carry. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I told him, I said, I just know that if I didn't know if I was leaving or not, that'd be one thing.
Mhm.
Stay, no problem. And I
Mhm.
totally understand that that conviction may not be everybody's. We all have different things that the Lord calls
Sure.
us to do.
Yeah.
But I was like, I can't, these people have paid me well. They've helped, they
Mhm.
let me go part-time. They've been flexible with me,
Mhm.
worked with me, cared for me as best they knew how, and I would not feel right
Mhm.
taking, tens of thousands of dollars knowing that I'm never walking through the doors again.
Right.
So,
Right.
mhm.
Wow. Wow. So you put your notice in. How did that feel like putting it in? I would just love to hear just kind of like viscerally what was going through your head at that
Yeah.
moment.
So it was so interesting because I think my passion is seeing people set free. And so
Mhm.
I really thought I felt almost like in my mind, like the Pied Piper, where I'm going to, because all of us, everybody struggled at different points in that job. It's hard not to feel beat up, worn down, discouraged,
Mhm.
frustrated. It's a
Mhm.
corporate law job, and it just
Yeah.
calls for a lot. And so I honestly thought I would give my notice and there'd be like a dozen people doing the same. I can do it too. I can leave too.
Like we're gonna set off like a domino effect.
Yes, it was so
Yeah.
funny. And that didn't happen. And so I remember honestly this feeling of disappointment that I
Mhm.
think really speaks to the heart that the Lord has given me in the work He's called me to do, which is
Mhm.
my, freedom for myself and for my family is a gift. But
Yeah.
the place I get really excited is watching other people get set free.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, tell us more about that. So how did you like what are you doing now and how did you come into what you're doing now, setting
Yeah.
free in a different way?
Yeah.
So I'm
So
guessing Isaiah 61 is a big one for you too.
I do love that one. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That we might just walk as he walked. That's his work,
Hmm.
is to set the captives free, to bind up the
Hmm.
brokenhearted. Oh, just love
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I kind of fumbled and fell and rose again in different kind of part-time jobs and small businesses.
Hmm.
Um, and actually, well, and there was one piece of the story that I forgot about until you asked that question, which is even
Hmm.
my husband will always say when I was still lawyering, he's like, I don't understand what you want to do. Like, do you want to be,
Hmm.
because I was looking at going back to my alma mater to be a career services coach. And then I was looking at part-time or not part-time, like smaller firms and in-house jobs. He's like, what
Hmm.
do you want to do? And I didn't ever know how to answer him. And then I started working with a coach while my firstborn, when I was on maternity leave with my firstborn, and
Hmm.
that coach asked me this kind of ordinary question. Um, she said, "What's your ideal day? I want you to journal what your ideal day is."
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that exercise made me realize what I really wanted was to be home and have this sense of quiet and rhythm
Hmm.
and being present with the people I loved. That question changed everything for me. And
Yeah.
so from the beginning, and what I realized was it wasn't that I didn't know what I wanted to do, it was that I hadn't given myself permission to want it because I didn't think it was possible,
Well,
right?
we have tornado siren going off right now, and my
Yeah,
dogs are howling. So hopefully you can't hear it. But
I literally can't.
okay, amazing. Zoom is absolutely amazing. Um, uh, So you can just keep sharing. I'm going to mute myself. Real
All
life,
right.
people. This is real life. So
We
keep
got it.
going.
We got
Yeah.
this. Okay, so really it was that moment of permission to say, what do I really, really want? Not what do I think I can have, but what do I really, really want is to be home with my children. And so coaching changed my life. So in the back of my mind always was this desire to coach. And and I did some other things in the interim, but over the past few years, I've started building a coaching practice, and I love helping people really come to recognize their unique gifts before the Father and to do so from a place, first and foremost, where they're really abiding with the
Mm,
vine, that kind of deep rooting in. Um, and, one of the things I had just an amazing word study with the Lord recently where he had me
mhm,
look at the word courage, because that's one of
mm,
my core values is
yeah.
courage. And I think everybody, I don't know if everybody, but it's common to want to be brave in our lives, to want to
Yeah.
feel like, yeah, I've swung for the fences, I've done the big things.
Mhm,
And I was like, what is courage really though, Lord? Is it these kind of grand moves? It's kind of like it by its results, but there's got to be places, it starts somewhere.
yeah.
Um, and the fascinating thing is the word for courage in the Hebrew actually means to fasten. There's two different words. And so
Mm,
when it says in Joshua 1:9, be strong and courageous, that's
mhm,
actually two different words for courage. And the first word that is translated as strong means
mhm,
to grab hold of or fasten to. And
mm,
then the second word is this change of mind and this inner strength that
mhm,
comes from the fastening.
mm,
And so, what the Lord showed me is the root of all courage is our attachment to the vine.
mm.
Isn't that cool?
Wow. You've got me thinking now. So like, I love Joshua 1:9 is like one of my anchoring verses for the journey that I've been on.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to go a little deeper on this. I encourage you listeners to do the same. Fasten. It's interesting. I say that a lot. Like, are you ready? Like, fasten your seatbelt.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting.
Isn't that
Okay,
amazing?
that is amazing. So what, like, in your journey, my dogs are howling at the tornado. Can you hear it?
No, I
You
can't.
can't
That
hear
is
it.
so
Okay.
funny.
Wild. It's totally distracting me, but I'm gonna keep my brain like focused here. So this word courage, you obviously took a very courageous step to leave the position you were in, and then he led you into coaching. And has it been a few years now that you've officially been coaching?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see, 2023 to early 2024.
Okay, amazing. Well, I have to capture because if you guys remember, Um, Anna was met with a mentor who said something to her that shifted the trajectory of her life.
Yeah.
And then there was a coach that came in and helped shift the trajectory of her life.
Yeah.
Both her and I are coaches. We are on the other side of seeing what can happen. And I want you guys to really capture and even think of maybe somebody in your life, whether it was a sibling or a parent or a teacher or, somebody in her life that helped shift the trajectory of your life. There's a movie that I just love. It's called A Million Miles Away. Have you seen it?
No, writing it down
Oh
now.
my goodness. Um, you guys go watch it. It's so good. It's about this child who had a huge dream that was wild and beyond what anybody would be like, yeah, okay. But there was a teacher that was like, oh yeah, I totally see that you could do that. And I'm not going to give the story away, but there's people that are just ready to come alongside you. And so, Anna, tell us more about, and now there's an eagle. Tell us more about like, how you were led in essence. Like, did you go through a specific school for coaching? Like, what did this journey look like for you to really step in and then step out into it?
hmm Yeah.
How did that look for you?
Yeah. So for me, I ran a direct sales organization. I had a large team through a direct sales organization for years, for about 8 years. And so I did
Mhm.
a lot of coaching through that. I had a team
Okay.
of, several, well, it's always bigger than it bigger on paper than it is as far as who shows up for the call. But
Mhm.
I would mentor, support, and coach my team members over the years. And then I got a coaching certification that was that was kind of indirectly related to the direct sales organization so that I could continue to coach and mentor my team.
Yeah.
And then there came this point where I'm like, do I get the official piece of paper from, one of the big names? And then it's kind of
Yeah.
like, okay, it's more than just this, this program that's through direct sales. It's
Mhm.
something that feels more official. And
Mhm.
and my husband was willing for me to do that, but I came to a point where I was like, I've got a law degree. I've got
Mhm.
10 years of coaching experience. I've
Yeah.
got training. I've got a certification from this, smaller organization. And
Mhm.
so it was a hard thing for me who had always kind of paid for the piece of paper
Sure.
to
Yeah. For
say,
real.
and I say I have like I kind of have a braid, like my three chords of experience are the kind of legal side is the strategy, and then the
Mhm.
coaching experience is more of the heart and the
Mhm.
attunement. And then I've got this Holy Spirit kind of intuition
I
that
love that.
that comes together. And so, um, so those are the three things that I landed on. And um, I do coaching for all different things because I feel like ultimately it's all about just helping the client identify that
Mhm.
Holy Spirit knowing that's already within them.
Yeah.
In the same way that I needed all those years ago, what do I
Mhm.
really want? I knew, she didn't have to tell me, I knew it. And
Yeah.
so it's a drawing out very much as opposed to,
Mhm.
and I homeschool the same way, right? Let me draw out my child's unique excellence instead of stuffing things in their brains.
I love that.
hmm And
It's a different
so
system, isn't it?
it is, it's a totally different modality and it's very grounding because there's so much trust in it to just go, I get to show up to the call for fully confident that I don't need to do anything but listen and attune to the person on the other end.
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to say, like, way to follow Holy Spirit in that, and not feeling like you have to or should, right?
hmm
Should get a certificate or whatever.
Yep.
I like to say, the best title and best letters behind my name are God.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Like he'll lead and he can
Yeah.
like say that I'm qualified for the spaces that he has me. So,
Yes, I love that.
yeah. So
So good.
the funny piece for me now is in this season, although I coach everybody, I have this unique gifting in the corporate world because I've done so much there. And so he's given me a lot of appointments, often just, random assignments where I'll have lunch with someone who thinks they're recruiting me for something and we end up talking about their business. And I'm like, yeah, I see the pain points. I see the holes in the funnel. I see all of those things. And so I do a lot in that space. And that's really a passion of mine because I think, when we own a small business,
Hmm.
so often there are these inner aches where it's like it's not where I wanted it to be. It doesn't look like what I hoped it would look like. It's not bringing in the revenue that I hoped it would.
Yeah.
And yet we go to the meet and greets and the networking events and we put on this
Mm.
pulled together face of, presenting our product to the world with full confidence. And inside we're hurting because it's
Mm.
not quite there yet. We don't know who to ask.
Mhm.
And so that's the place I really love to minister.
Oh. Would you mind sharing maybe a testimonial of somebody you've worked with? Since you're probably just like me, we're very confidential. We're not giving away names or
Yeah.
anything, but would you mind sharing like one of your favorite testimonials, like maybe on a broad level, or unless you want to share deeply, whatever you are led to share? Kind
Mhm.
of a very, amazing work I know that you're amazing. I can already tell as a coach.
Um,
But would you mind sharing something if you're able to?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to think of what, because it's like I get to do it and then it just floats away and it goes. And right now, a lot of who I'm coaching is so I paused my business for a season
Oh, you
and
did.
laid it down to go before the Father, and because I went through a bit of a rough patch last year, and
Mm.
so coaching's looking a little bit more like organic right now. And I'm just starting to get clients again and just starting to kind of get the wheels moving. So now I'm like, okay, Lord, let me dust off this part of my brain and own a wonderful story that I have. But I think one of the ones that's been really precious for me was just getting to stand beside somebody who this is my favorite one. I got it.
Got it. Yay.
This was several years ago before I was
Okay.
even officially coaching, and I
Yeah.
had she tells the story all the time, so I can tell
Oh,
it in a little bit more detail. But
sure.
I had someone that I'd connected with through my direct sales business,
Mhm.
and she was a customer, and we got on the phone, I think, for her to place an order. I don't even remember. It ended
Mhm.
up being an hour-long conversation where she was just kind of cranky and frustrated with, so she had been very high up in a direct sales organization and had taken her retirement. So she had kind of wound down that chapter of her life.
Mhm.
And she was just kind of like, you know, just agitated. And I forget
Yeah.
why she even opened up to me, but
Mhm.
the Lord had me start to mirror back to her. And this is one of my favorite things to do because I feel like we
Mhm.
so often miss what the
Yes.
Lord has given us, those unique giftings. And He's
Mhm.
given me an ability to spot them a mile away. Like
Yeah.
I can see
Mhm.
what you're good at. I can see
Yeah.
it. And I
Mhm.
love getting to call it forth. So I just started doing that with her. And she started crying, and because she had been mentoring me in my direct sales business, even just as a customer. And I started mirroring back all that I saw in her.
Mhm.
And she was like, you know what? There's this thing I've been wanting to do that I've yet to do. And
Mhm.
she realized basically she was feeling spiritually kind of sluggish. I'm not pouring out enough in this season. I need to find a way to pour out. And
Mhm.
so she gets off that one
Yeah.
little phone call, and
Mhm.
she goes and enrolls in a coaching program herself, actually.
Wow.
And she is now like one of the top trainers for this organization, just
Oh
like,
my God.
rocking it, changing lives, serving so many people, just, in the golden years of her life. And
Oh,
she still credits that conversation as the turning point before the Lord.
isn't it amazing? I mean, literally, like, this is like, I mean, I get to do this too. Like, it's such a gift.
It really is. It really is. I mean, what an honor to see yeah, it's just, I still talk about my coach, Mary Beth, that I haven't worked with in 14 years. But
Really?
yeah,
Like, do you think about her a lot?
I do. And actually, I've reached out to her at a couple different points, but yeah, it's probably been 6 or 7 years. I need to do it again just to tell
Yeah.
her that
When
changed
are
my
you going to do
life
that?
today.
Okay. Coaching question.
Right? Right? What other time is there today?
Right. Oh my gosh. I just love this. So, like, what is something stretchy that he's calling you into this year that you're, you know, anticipating, or maybe something that you're called to shift in this season?
Yeah. So really for me, um, so the tough season last year was what part of what made it so hard is I stepped into a space that felt like it was an opportunity to serve in every area where I was gifted. I was
Mm.
like, oh, it calls together all these different places and it calls
Mhm.
together all these different gifts I've had, and they all come together in this one
Yep.
opportunity to serve and to grow.
Mhm.
And it ended up being not only not what I'd hoped for, but really just a heartbreaking situation.
Mm.
Um,
So sorry.
and thank you. And so from that, there came this season of hibernation of just, I don't know
Mm.
if I can get back out there again.
Mm.
Do I trust myself? Do I trust the Lord? Did I make it all up?
Mm.
And I know I'm not alone in that. So for anyone who's
Yeah.
in that season now,
Mhm.
um, I see you, and it's not forever. He knows how to bring you to the other side, and he's faithful to do it.
Yes.
hmm And so,
So
so the
you,
stretch is coming back. It's seeing clients again, it's showing
Mhm.
up, and it's trusting that there's work to be done, and that I'm the one to do it because I'm
Mhm.
still here, right?
Say that last part again.
Yeah. I'm the one to do it because I'm still here.
Yeah. Yeah, I want you guys to capture that. Like, if you are here today and you're breathing, like, God has a plan for you.
Yes. Hmm.
And some days it looks like just like laying around and resting. Let's
Yeah.
just be real.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but like in your walk, especially, working in the environment you worked in, like, did you have to kind of go through a season of learning how to rest? And do you integrate that like into your coaching with people you work with, especially now that you kind of find yourself being connected with people in that corporate space that
Hmm.
tends to be, because I know,
Yes.
very driven, striving, hustling, grinding
Hmm.
environments. Like, what
Yes.
did that look like? I just want to capture that part, if you don't
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah. So it really, one of my favorite images of this in the scriptures is, for those of us who kind of know our Bible, the Sabbath was always Friday night to Saturday night.
Mhm.
And it was because in creation, God created in 6 days, and then in the seventh day, he rested.
Mhm.
Um, and yet we have our Sabbath as Christians on Sunday.
Mhm.
And it what seems to be the case, and different scholars, I'm sure you could find different scholars that differ on this, but there seems to be a very compelling indication that the reason for that shift took
Mhm.
place because Christ on the cross said it is finished, and that there was an understanding in the early church that we now get to rest first, and then
Mhm.
our work is an outpouring of that rest because
Mhm.
he's done it.
Mhm.
And so that's an invitation I extend to my clients quite regularly, whether they're in the corporate world, they're stay-at-home moms, whatever it is that
Mhm.
really we get to rest first, and like if we wait until it's all finished before we rest, that's never
Mhm.
happening. And so we have to make a decision. And there's this beautiful book that I'm trying to single-handedly bring back out into print from being out of print called
Mhm.
The Choosing Rest by Sally
Mhm.
Breedlove.
Oh,
And I think the line is choosing choosing a Sunday life in a Monday world or something like that. But
oh.
but she basically talks about all the
Mhm.
different ways that we might find unrest in our souls, whether it's from busyness and overwork, whether it's from like a dark night of the soul, that general malaise that Ecclesiastes speaks to, relational grief, all of these different places. And
Mhm.
one of the things that she talks about is that the word Sabbath means the Hebrew root word means to suffer lack.
Mm.
And that there, among other things, it does mean rest and all of that, but that one of the root words is to suffer lack, and that we must, the only way we can truly enter rest is when we allow things to be unfinished.
Mm. That's a book right there.
Right.
Anna,
Mhm.
you ready to write?
I know. It took
Just
me a
say it.
minute. I was like, hold on. Yeah,
Just
yeah,
say it.
maybe one day. Maybe
Just
one
say it.
day.
Someday. Well, you have a podcast as well. So how did you get into podcasting, and like how long has your podcast been around? And tell us the name again of your podcast.
Yeah, so my podcast is Overwhelmed to Overcomer.
Hmm.
And I launched it, let's see, it's been around for just over 2 years now.
Gotcha.
Um, and I started it when I opened my coaching practice. So initially, again, a conversation. I was I was initially not really sure who I was talking to or what this would look like. And so
Hmm.
one of my like adages to myself and to others is to move your sweet feet. Sometimes we just
Hmm.
need to move our sweet feet. And
Hmm.
we may not know where it's leading us.
Yeah.
And so the first 9 months of the podcast was for Christian homeschooling entrepreneurs
Oh,
because that's what I was.
that's what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And as I spoke, so I started with what I knew was kind of a caricature of what I was trying to capture.
Hmm.
But really, the podcast design is, the concept behind Overwhelmed to Overcomer at its heart is to help us flip the call of John 15 to its right side. And what I mean by that is that's the call of Christ to abide and to
Hmm.
bear much fruit.
Hmm.
And what I've found in years of coaching and friendship and mentorship and all of it is that um, women of faith who are devoted to the Lord, we so often start to try and bear beyond or outside of our abiding because we're like, I love you, Lord. I want to do things for you. And so we'll start yesing where we should be knowing, or we'll start kind of
Mhm.
running ahead and getting exhausted. And then we get discouraged and
Mhm.
disappointed, or then we feel like we've taken a wrong turn. And so, really, Overwhelmed to Overcomer is a call to abide first and foremost.
Mhm.
And to trust that through that abiding, the bearing is inevitable. Like
Mhm.
we're doing the work. It's okay. And then we just explore all the ways that that can be, you know, all the places where we find that challenging. So I love
Mhm.
having guests on, and you're coming on, which is exciting.
Yeah, very
Um,
excited.
yeah, and so, we look at all kinds of topics like
Mhm.
grief or sleep or authenticity or
Mhm.
even practical things like finances, just all the places where maybe we're not sure how to be faithful there. And
Mhm.
so it's an invitation to stewardship, but from a stewardship that's really rooted in the Father.
Yes. Well, I just love everything he has you doing and being. I just love who you be and what you do. It's beautiful. So how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will give you the link, Kristen, to put in the show notes.
Mhm.
Do you do show notes?
I do. I just
Awesome.
love for people to hear it first because
Good.
sometimes they're like, you know what? I just want to hear it and then I'll go capture it later.
I love
So I
it.
appreciate
Okay.
do both. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, I have my podcast. Of course, that's a great place to catch me. And
Hmm.
then I love extending an invitation to just a 15 to 20-minute curiosity call if you want to see what coaching would look like as well. And my commitment always is that call is going to be prayed over. And my goal is to leave you with that kind of deep breath sense of rest when we get off the line, that place of like,
Yes.
yeah.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh. So what do you have a website we can share as well?
I do not have a website actually. That's been one of
Okay.
the really interesting things of this season is I just shut down all the overhead and I was like, I'm
I
not
love it.
fancy, I'm not big, and because of that, I'm very affordable. So,
I love you. When I've been coaching for almost 9 years and I actually shut mine down for probably 6 of the 9 years and I just got mine back up last year.
I love it. Yeah.
So keep it simple, girl.
I know. I built the whole thing and then I was like, I don't
Yep,
even
I
like,
did that too.
yeah, I don't know that this is necessary and it's $120 a month and I'm just going to lay it down. So
Yep.
yeah, it's my first and foremost job, especially after the season of
Mhm.
rest that I'm coming out of, is
Yeah.
seeing my children through their homeschool journey. My youngest is 8, so we've got another 10 years to go. And so
Oh,
I'm gonna I have this phrase the Lord gave me, wait for the lead rope to get taut, wait for the Lord to feel like wait till I feel pulled into the next step. And so
yeah.
so it's very quiet and very simple. I have a little Calendly site
I
and
love it.
find me there, find me on Instagram or Facebook and let's
Okay.
connect. I'll answer all the questions.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I just love you.
You
Um,
too.
as we close, I just, I've shared, I do this for the one. So if you could just get in mind somebody who's listening in today, any other words of encouragement that you'd want to speak over this one, and then would you pray us out today?
Absolutely. Ah, sweet friend. I actually have a passage from one of my favorite books, which is called The True
Yeah.
Vine.
Okay.
And I just want to speak this over you who are listening, who might be feeling like, Lord, are you pleased with me? Like, am I doing enough for you? Am I being enough for you? I want to be faithful in my life, and it feels so small sometimes.
Mhm.
And so the author Andrew Murray lived 150 years ago, and he has this to say to you, and the whole book is about John 15, abiding and bearing.
Mhm.
As high and holy is our calling, so mighty and loving is the God who will work it all. As surely as the husbandman, that's the gardener, made
Mhm.
the vine, which is Christ, what it was to be, will he make each branch, which is you, what it is to be.
Mhm.
Our Father is our husbandman, the surety for our growth and fruit. So, friend, your work is simply to lean into the Lord.
Mhm.
Let him love you, let him lead you and guide you. and you can be assured of your
Mhm.
growth and fruit.
Mm. Yes, so good. Thank you so much. Wow. Anna, I want you to come back again.
Please.
Come back, please. Well, I am going to close with Hope Unlocked anchoring verse. It's may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing, so that by the power of the Holy Spirit you may abound in hope. And that's Romans 15:13. So thank you so much for coming on today. And thank you for being such a brave voice who's setting so many free. I will be back with another episode next week. Thanks, listeners. And thank you, Anna.